Welcome to our latest deep dive into what some are calling the biggest meltdown in Hollywood's recent history. I'm here to break down the whirlwind surrounding Disney's live-action Snow White remake and the rather epic roast it received from none other than South Park. If you've been scrolling social media wondering why everyone keeps talking about Rachel Zegler, box office numbers, and a certain pandering special, you've come to the right place. Buckle up, because this story has more twists than a late-night tabloid scoop. For several years now, Disney has faced an identity crisis, some say bigger than any they've ever had. They've been trying to rework iconic tales for modern audiences, hoping to appeal to changing social norms and different cultural backgrounds. At first glance, you might think, great, who wouldn't want updated stories that celebrate diversity and inclusiveness? But behind the scenes, critics argue Disney has swung too far, turning classic tales into corporate statements rather than heartfelt retellings. You don't have to look far to see the pattern. Remember the debate over The Little Mermaid remake? That was just a warm-up. Fans noticed Disney's strategy: modernize beloved characters, update old-fashioned details, and expect audiences to cheer. Unfortunately, good intentions alone don't guarantee a good story. And with Snow White, it wasn't long before online whispers turned into full-blown outrage. Enter Rachel Zegler. She's no stranger to the spotlight. After wowing audiences in West Side Story, landing the role of Snow White seemed like a natural progression for an up-and-coming star. Except things went sideways the moment she opened her mouth about the original cartoon. In multiple interviews, Zegler labeled the 1937 classic outdated, criticized its romantic themes, and hinted that her version would all but ignore the iconic prince. Fans thought, wait a second, aren't these elements part of what makes Snow White? Snow White? That was just the beginning. Zegler doubled down with comments that sounded dismissive toward anyone who adored the original. She implied the story lacked relevance and needed a massive overhaul to fit today's values. A portion of the public saw this as disrespectful to Walt Disney's very first feature-length animated film, a movie that practically built the foundation of the Disney empire. Suddenly, Zegler went from bright young star to a lightning rod for criticism, fueling the notion that Disney had lost all reverence for its own legacy. But Zegler wasn't the only reason people turned against Snow White. Many pointed to the story itself. Gone was the romance that, for decades, symbolized hope and innocence. In its place, a modern reinterpretation that emphasized independence over love. Also noticeably missing, the charming 7 dwarves we've all memorized by name. Early production photos revealed a ragtag group of diverse magical creatures, prompting confusion and outrage. Was this Disney's effort to dodge stereotypes, or simply a misguided attempt to remake the story beyond recognition? The fervor grew once leaks suggested massive rewrites and reshoots. Fans said the new film felt more like a lecture on 21st century morals than an endearing fairy tale. Industry observers believed Disney was buckling under the pressure to stay relevant, chasing social media approval at the expense of the magic that used to define its brand. In short, the stage was set for a spectacular downfall. All that was missing was a spark to light the fire. That spark arrived in the form of a South Park episode titled Join the Pandaverse. The Emmy-winning show has built its reputation on unapologetic satire. When it sees a chance to roast big corporations or public figures, it rarely holds back. And Disney, with its Snow White drama, was the perfect target. The parody poked fun at the studio's perceived checklist approach to diversity. Main characters like Cartman found themselves transformed into outspoken women of color, complaining about patriarchy and toxic fans. It was a comedic gut punch aimed right at Disney's biggest vulnerability: the perception that it's pandering to every trending concern rather than focusing on telling a good story. And that's exactly what viewers took away. If Disney had concentrated on crafting a faithful, heartwarming Snow White, maybe it wouldn't be in the crosshairs. The show singled out Rachel Zegler's remarks too, turning her well-intentioned but poorly received criticism of the original movie into comedic gold. Overnight, social media was buzzing with clips, memes, and commentary about how South Park said what everyone else was thinking. Just when you thought the drama couldn't get any more chaotic, attention shifted to the dwarves, or lack thereof. Disney's early statement about avoiding offensive portrayals led them to replace the 7 iconic dwarves with a mix of CGI stand-ins. Cue a tidal wave of uproar from fans who felt the cherished characters were being sidelined for the sake of playing it safe. Then came rumors that Disney, startled by the negative press, attempted last-minute changes to bring back the dwarves. The result? confusion over what audiences would actually see. South Park wasted no time jumping on this fiasco, mocking how a legacy story was twisted and turned to check all the right boxes. It's as if the show was telling Disney, you can't rewrite nostalgia without consequences. Suddenly, the dwarves became a symbol of everything fans feared, that the studio would rather remodel a cherished classic than risk stepping on modern sensibilities. Critics of the remake argued that art can't be bulletproofed against all controversy. If you gut its essence, you're left with something unrecognizable. And that's exactly how many felt about the new Snow White. The real kicker? South Park is rumored to be gearing up for another special focusing specifically on Disney's supposed checklist approach, dubbed the DEI Special by insiders. After the Pandaverse roast, the animated show's creators apparently smelled more comedic blood in the water. For Disney, this is the nightmare scenario, a comedic juggernaut that reports suggest Disney's higher-ups are in panic mode, hosting crisis meetings to figure out how to salvage the remake's reputation, if that's even still possible. Some inside the company point fingers at marketing for not addressing fan concerns sooner. Others criticize the script for deviating too much from the source material. Meanwhile, Rachel Zegler is reportedly frustrated that she's become the face of this entire controversy, attracting more ire than praise for a role that was supposed to elevate her career. Outside the studio walls, fans and skeptics are united by one sentiment. Is Disney learning anything from this backlash, or will they keep forging ahead with modern twists until no classic remains untouched? At this point, the brand is caught between wanting to innovate and needing to preserve the enchantment that made its name. And with each new misstep, the world pays attention and has a good laugh at their expense thanks to shows like South Park. All of this begs the question, where does Disney go from here? Can they strike a balance between evolving their stories and honoring the timeless qualities that made us all fall in love with talking animals, fairy godmothers, and happily ever afters in the first place? South Park's satirical jabs are a wake-up call, reminding everyone that audiences aren't fooled by a big-budget facade. If a corporation can't stay true to the magic at its core, then it's fair game for any comedic force looking to call it out. As for Rachel Zegler, she may still have time to reshape her public image, but the damage is done. She's become the face of a remake that many believe epitomizes everything wrong with Disney's current strategy. Whether she bounces back will depend on her next moves and how willing fans are to forgive and forget. Meanwhile, the dwarves might or might not return in all their comedic, whimsical glory, depending on Disney's final decisions. One thing's for sure, this Snow White journey is far from a fairy tale ending, and every new twist has critics, fans, and satirists chomping at the bit. In the end, South Park's roast serves as both a cultural commentary and a stark warning. If you try too hard to please everyone, you'll likely satisfy no one and become the punchline of a cartoon that thrives on exposing your every misstep. So here's hoping Disney takes a moment to reconsider its next steps. Until then, the House of Mouse might want to make peace with the idea that the critics and comedians aren't done, and they're bringing an audience of millions along for the ride.